Yay! Author interview today, guys. There's Sherry. Yay! Sherry, why does it feel like... And William's here. William, awesome. Welcome. You're going to love this, William. Sherry, it feels like I haven't talked to you in forever. And there's Aggie. Aggie missed yesterday. William, guess what? We're going to get on Skype now, and Sherry and Aggie. Guys, share. Oh, by the way, if you share, you get put in the drawing for a mystery book. You get to pick. I'm going to draw on Friday. Will you pick this Middle Earth trivia book or a nonfiction book about wherever this is right here? Lalo, come on in, guys. So exciting. We're going to call our author Mike Klassen, and we're going to talk to him. Get your questions ready. We're going to talk to him all about how the hippies generated $1 billion economy. What can we learn from the hippies going forward into this new millennium? Thank you so much. Heart party, yay! Get your questions ready. Oh, song of the day, For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield. You know this song already. Interestingly, hey Kathy, come on in. I don't know that Mike Klassen would think this is a hippie song. Let's find out. Should we call him right now? I'm kind of jazzed about this. Not kind of, I am. Alright, let's dial him. What'd you think of it, William? This song was, this song is from 1966, which technically is after the 100-week hippie youth movement in San Francisco. Let's call, oops, I'm calling the wrong person right now. Technology! Call phones, dial. Okay, here we go. Pause. He's ready. He's going to answer right now. Hey, thank you so much, Lalo. 0. Okay, here we go. Get your questions ready, guys. Can you hear? He just messaged me, actually. Hopefully he's going to pick up. Did I dial it right? Come on. I told him to call me in case we had problems.
Your call has been forwarded
to
an automated voice message.
Let me check the number real quick. Okay, let's do it. Do it again. Sorry, guys. Technology. We haven't smoothed out all of the creases in this, have we? We haven't figured it out all the way. Look at this book, guys. While we're trying to get him. Turquoise. You have, yeah, who has the turquoise hearts? Come on. Andrew, I'm so glad you came in for this. I was hoping you guys would come in and ask your awesome questions that you guys... Oh no. All right. I'm going to message him really quick and tell him to call. Not getting through. Sorry, guys. First of all, look at the pictures in this book. The whole book is amazing. You know, I just love a full color photo book. Okay, he said he saw. I'll try again. Oh. Now he's asking. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm going to hang up now. He's going to call. He's going to call. This is pictures of the human being. I can't imagine. Can you imagine the research, how fun it would be? Oh, here we go. Here he is. Hello?
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Mike. Good. We got you.
I don't know what's going on with the phone this morning. I don't know.
Oh,
It's never failed me before.
trust me, I have call-in shows regularly, and people will call, and I'll just be talking and not even look at the phone, and it'll be going. So don't worry about it at all. We're here.
A strong landline here at the university. I think we should be okay.
Awesome.
I'm not moving around with a cell phone, so I think we should be all right.
Good morning, Priscilla. Hey, can everybody hear him okay? Say, okay, so this is Mike Klassen of HIPPIE Inc. Yeah, okay, they can hear you. And there's Bob. Guys, awesome. I'm so glad all my peeps are here. Just about all my peeps are in here. That's awesome. Okay, so first I want to compliment you, Mike, on just the general beauty of this book. I was actually in a long discussion with a friend the other day who's really into ebooks. And you know this is available as an ebook too. But I love the instant gratification of judging, like when I have a topic in mind and I go to a library and I want to see, you know, like the thickness of the books, you know, and be able to hold them.
Yeah, you know, when we started talking about this with the person who is now my publisher, one of the things that convinced me that he would be a good publisher for my book is he said, you know, it's a compelling story, and on top of it, I want it to be a visual buffet, you know, and I said, I love it, you know, I said, it is the hippies, and visual they were, and I think he did a really nice job. Total visual buffet. Yeah.
And it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and I love how even later you go into talking about the specific artists that make the art. But can we start with, let's just start with getting everybody on the same page. What are hippies? Who were the hippies?
Sure. The hippies started out as a very small group, depending upon who you talk to. And I talked to probably 36 original hippies. They were from size from 20 to 500. But, you know, I found that about 800 true believers were there pretty much from day one. And then what happened over time was more and more people came into San Francisco, and at some point it became overrun. At that point, the hippie dream was pretty much over. But the original hippies were about 800 people, women and men, children. Of all ages, I found that in my leadership section of the Haight-Ashbury hippies that none of them were baby boomers, so all were born before January 1, 1946. 4 of them were Nazi camp survivors. A number of them still had memories of the Great Depression. Several of them were Army veterans, not of the Vietnam War, but the Korean War, and one of them had some of the highest distinctions and decorations of combat duty that any soldier could possibly get.
Mike, can we talk?
It was a wide variety of mix of people.
Can we talk a little bit more about that? Because I find this completely interesting, because I feel like it's there's a lot of misinformation, and you narrowed the movement down to a 100-week period, and the fact that you say hippies now would be in their 70s, correct?
Yes, that is true. They are in their 70s, and some are even in their 80s, Jessica. Some are. I was just so happy, you know, that they granted me some time, and they were all just beautiful, except for 2 people. I think out of about 40, 2 people were kind of irascible, but the rest were just wonderful, gracious people. They invited me into their homes. They even gave us night lodging, and you know, just as nice interviewees as you could ever imagine.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to identify with this so much, because I will be 35 in a few days, and I kind of detest when I'm lumped into either Generation X or the millennials, because I have a vivid memory of what life was like before the internet, right?
Yeah, right.
Unlike millennials, and I was a freshman in college when 9/11 happened. I feel like I can't really relate to people who were children during that and older people. So I totally get it. No, I'm only 12. No, I'm not 12. All right.
Well, that's we had the same feeling. We were, and I'm a baby boomer, and I resented that term too. And I think it's not so much that it's just kind of silly to call people millennials or boomers or Xers, but I think the thing that kind of makes me a little standoffish is just being put into a category. There's just too much variety and diversity.
Labels are for
within
cans of
each
beans.
generation to say they're all like this or they're all that just never has been true.
Exactly. But speaking of labels, what are the difference between hippies and say like beats and radicals?
Sure. Actually, there are three distinct groups, and so we look at the beats. They also were sometimes called beatniks. Their effect was not nearly the range that happened with the hippies. They were primarily a literary and artistic movement. They were operating in the North Beach section of San Francisco primarily, and also Greenwich Village in New York City. They included people like Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and a number of those folks. And they were primarily about art and literature. They also tend towards cynicism, and also non-intervention, non-active. It was a kind of a movement that was cynical about anything good coming out of the country. Very, very different from the hippies, who were the face of optimism and hope. If there was anything, it surely was with them. The hippies were... Yes, go ahead.
It was a youth movement. The hippie movement was a youth movement.
Primarily, yeah, and in that way it was led by youth. But again, always exceptions to the norm. I posted yesterday on my website, Mike Klassen, that one of the more influential people actually was approaching his 70s. That's Samuel Edwards. They called him Sufi Sam, which sounds kind of goofy, but he actually had quite a big impact and was a significant player in the dance world at that time. But he had all this life before him, and he went to the Haight-Ashbury in his late 60s, and he became a very influential hippie. So you'll find varieties of ages, but primarily, the original hippies today are in their mid to late 70s, and at the time they were in their mid to late 20s. So it's about a 50-year difference.
I'm getting questions about Morningstar Ranch. You don't touch on that in the book at all.
No. The reason I don't touch on Morningstar Ranch is because it doesn't really fit into the earliest period. That came later. And so what we're looking at here in the book is a very constrained time zone. I call it the beginning and end of the hippie history. It started on the night of November 27, 1965, and it ended on the afternoon of October 6, 1967. So that's less than 100 weeks, less than 2 years, and it was over with.
Right. And so what are...
Wait, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but how do radicals fit into this?
Sure, and then you had your campus radicals. Well, so you had your beats, who were very literary, artistic. You had your hippies, who were very optimistic, very hopeful. And then you had your campus radicals. And the campus radicals really kind of started before the hippie movement. So your beats were like 52 to 60. Your campus radicals about 60 to 64 was probably some of the beginning of it. And your hippies 65 and to 67. But the campus radicals primarily came out of Berkeley, so it was just over the bridge. It was interesting to me, Jessica, because these three movements, some of the most radical youth movements in U.S. history, you can get on a bicycle and easily travel to the center of these three movements in a day and have a pretty good time in San Francisco.
I loved the little neighborhood map you include in the beginning of the novel too. That was really cool. Yeah, you can even you've got a little map and little bullet points on where to go. So I have a question really quick before we move on to kind of the business of Hippie Inc. Another question was from our audience was, do you think the hippie movement, do you think they were sympathetic toward the Korean vets who were coming back rather than the radicals? Like maybe the hippies were more sympathetic?
Yes. I think they were far more sympathetic to the working class. I mean, you see a lot of empathy for the local farming, which was being slowly deteriorated, local businesses, what they would call the grunt soldier. That's probably pretty derogatory to say, but I mean the enlisted person who maybe didn't have a lot of choices and ended up in some pretty bad situations. The hippies were very, very sympathetic. The radicals tended to be more judgmental. And honestly, when I talked with the original hippies, they really were put off by the radicals. I won't use the word that was said to me, but I think your audience can read into it. One of the hippies said the Berkeley radicals didn't like us much because we wouldn't go to their marches.
Right, and in response to that, they actually created that. You think the human being was really a response to radicals, not necessarily the greater culture of America, but the radicals who were kind of in with the hippies at that time.
Right. You know, I think a real not an epicenter, but a certainly central point in the hippie movement, probably right smack dab in the middle, was the human being, which was held in January 1967, and that was a significant time. Beats crossed over, radicals crossed over. Thousands and thousands of people ended up in Golden Gate Park. And this was months before the Summer of Love, which then kind of opened its gates to the nation. And that's when a lot of the deterioration went down. And that's not because the boomers were bad people. It's just that it attracted some very, very seriously bad people into the Hague, including lots of heavy drug dealers and people who exploited that situation.
And one of our audience members just mentioned that they thought that maybe the radicals were doing different drugs than the hippies. And then
well, yeah, their drugs were cigarettes and liquor,
right.
By and large, and so it was with the Beats as well. I'll share a little story with your audience. I was talking with Jay Thelen. Jay and his brother Ron, who has passed a number of years ago, started the very first hippie shop on Haight Street on January 3, 1966. It became the legendary Psychedelic Shop. And he said that he and the radicals, the hippies and the radicals really did not get along. And so he held a meeting with the two groups. I think it was actually in Berkeley. They came to a house there. They sat down together. And they tried to work out their differences. And Jay said, I said, well, what was the breaking point? He said, well, we told them you guys all need to get high, and that's your problem. You're drinking this liquor and smoking. These things are the part of the establishment.
Right.
They're designed to hurt you. And he took a big bunch of joints and threw them on the table. He said everybody got high, and then they started to understand each other.
Hey, let's talk about sort of, okay, the book, how it's laid out. I really love it, how you've taken the whole culture and kind of called it Hippie Inc. as if it was a business. And you kind of profile individual members as if they were shareholders, which I thought was super clever. I just want to say completely clever and exciting. I'm just bravo. I love that.
Thank you.
And let's talk about how specifically I'm interested in like the products that came from the hippie movement. For example, the other day my daughter and I were at our local co-op grocery, which I'm sure came from the hippie movement, and we bought flavored tea in jars. And having read the book, I was like, wow, I just kind of had my tea in my hand and was like, maybe I wouldn't have this tea if it wasn't for the hippie movement.
Yeah. Well, that tea you were drinking, I don't know if it was herbal tea or organic herbal or maybe
definitely
infused flavors like ginseng and others. That was definitely a hippie creation. We saw it most profitably, I guess you could say, in the person of Mo Siegel, who was a hippie. I don't know if he still would say that. And he originated Celestial Seasoning.
Celestial Seasoning. So, like, people were
So-
drinking tea, but not, like, combining, like, honey and ginseng and, like, different herbs and stuff. That wasn't even on the radar before the hippies, right?
There really wasn't, and tea was, and I remember tea very well. First of all, most Americans didn't drink it at all. If they did, it was Lipton, and I just remember it as kind of bitter, nothing that I really had any interest in. But it just did not register on until the hippies came. And when they started to infuse it with natural ingredients and flavors versus, processed sugar, for example, using honey or whatever it may be.
Right.
That's when all of a sudden a lot of Americans said, well, now that I like.
So can you
And of
name
course,
some...
that today has grown into a billion-dollar business.
It sure has. Snapple, Arizona, gosh, name...
Exactly.
So just the tea industry, I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar thing right there.
But it's not the biggest, Jessica.
No, it's not.
Industry that really, we often think it was music. Music was a good size industry, but I'd call it a middling industry. It wasn't the biggest, it wasn't the smallest, but the biggest by far was the natural and organic food movement. And it really came down to one person who is still alive, and he's actually a little bit older than most hippies. He's in his 80s. And, he's not doing real well. It was a great privilege to talk. His name is Fred Rohe, R-O-H-E. And Fred is featured in the book. And Fred came to, he moved out of White Plains, New York when he was a teenager. He'd read Jack Kerouac's book On the Road. And he said, that's it, I'm out of here. And he went to San Francisco to become a beat. Eventually, he became a significant hippie leader because of his store, New Age Foods. And he said, when I opened it up, there was just, very little business, and it was right on the cusp of the hippie movement. And he said, suddenly the place was just standing room only.
Wow.
So the hippies loved it. And he went on, he created 4 things, Jesse. He's an amazing entrepreneur. And I'll bet you nobody in your audience, because I'd never heard him before. I've never even heard of Fred Rohe before. He's incredibly significant. And he created the first organic natural supermarket, the first organic natural cafe, trade union, and distribution center. If you add up everything that Fred did, you're looking at well over $200 billion.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that's a very conservative estimate.
Wow, $200 billion. Whoa.
Yeah, and people don't even know his name. And he's a quiet man.
Yeah,
He's a wonderful
this
person.
is real money we're talking about. Name some other quintessential hippie products that we kind of take for granted.
There's some that are quite typical, like tie-dye, and Judy Goldhoff was a hippie in the Haight-Ashbury, who, along with her cohort, Jody Palladini, they brought tie-dye to the Haight. It is an ancient Japanese technique, and they both knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But what they wanted to do was help homeless women make a living on their own creations, and boy, did they ever do that. They taught them how to tie-dye. They worked in the Church of All Saints on Waller Street in the basement. The church turned over the basement to them, and the women came in, and they worked it. It turned into a multi-million-dollar business, and you know what? Judy and Jody did not realize a dime, and they don't care.
And that's
they were kind of your socialist capitalists.
Right. That's kind of the underlying theme I've noticed, having read the book, is you have these people, very altruistic type young people who want to change the world for the better, and the money kind of followed.
It comes in, and that's what, we often, I teach in a business college, have for almost 30 years now, and we talk about all kinds of economic development models for towns and cities and various things, and this is one that just never gets talked about, and that is you simply work for the better good and see what happens, because what you see with these people largely is that they were trying to make the world a better place. And as a result of their ideas and some of the products they thought would be really good for the country, it turned into essentially, if it was a company, one of the largest corporations in the world.
Love it.
But it was founded on ethical principles. It was a very principled movement. It was not founded on just making more and more money. That was secondary, or maybe not even on the map.
Mike, are there movements now? Do you recognize sort of like a... Okay, here, let me rephrase this. You and I've talked about how this book has kind of struck a chord with the young people, 20-somethings today. And honestly, I noticed, having been a teenager during the 90s, when we were doing the whole hippie thing in the 90s, we knew we were emulating the 60s, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know that they know, they're calling it 90s now, and I don't know that they know we were trying to be like hippies.
That's a very good point, Jessica. We have 50 years now. I mean, why would they know necessarily unless they've talked with their grandparents
Right.
about it? And it's been clear to me, and I don't fault them at all, millennials, for it. It's just simply 50 years difference. What do I remember 50 years ago? I have a hard time thinking of that time as well. But, and especially at their age, it was just ancient history. But I've gotten the feeling from some of my students that they thought that the hippies were kind of a Disney character, an animated figure that was created in a studio somewhere. He didn't really realize they were historic people. Now, that is not speaking at all to their ignorance or, whatever. It's just simply the march of time.
Right.
You just forget those things.
One of our audience members mentioned that if it's a product, it's not hippie now. As soon as it becomes a product, it's not hippie.
Well, here's the thing, and I do get a little pushback on this, that if you're hippie, you can't be in for profits, you can't be in for corporations. I've had a few angry Facebook posts that, well, this is a total oxymoron, you can't. But that's just simply not true. One of the things I found about the hippies was that they were, first and foremost, nonconformists.
Right.
And so what that means is that there is no one-size-fits-all. And when I talked with these hippies, there were some who were incredibly pro-capitalistic, and then there were others who were as socialistic, even, not communistic, but they were very anti-capitalist then, and they continue to this day. So keep in mind that this was a cross-section of the American youth at the time, and no one size fits all, and that's true for today's generation, and will be continuing true for
Right, and I think just having read the book, I think that one of the themes that you talk about they just had a different view about things, and if making money furthered their cause, well, then they were open to it, right?
Everything was on the table, Jessica. Everything was on the table. And, if they wanted to make money and could make money, well, then let's make money.
Right.
I talk to a lot of my students in their 20s, and they would like to start a nonprofit or work with a nonprofit, which is just wonderful. It is a different way of going about it. And normally what happens is people are involved in profitable ventures and make lots of money and then open up their own foundations and other things.
Right. That's one way to do it.
Way to go about it. And the hippies were very prone to that. Let's make some money and then let's give it away or do something with it.
Right. If you're going to be in a capitalist system, let's use it. Right? Let's use what we got. And that's what they were all about, using what they got. The super pragmatic people, yes. So are there modern movements, do you see, in our current culture to watch that are, maybe could have the same impact as the hippie movement?
There are hippies in every generation, Jessica. I see them in my classrooms every semester for the last 30 years. They're here. They have a particular approach, and I'm just always amazed by them. They're not wearing eating granola necessarily or wearing Birkenstocks.
Right.
They'll come in suits and ties, and the ones who are kind of wearing the Birkenstocks, you kind of are a little bit suspicious of.
Right.
I remember one in particular, a student of mine, and I was just concerned that he was even going to graduate. He could not, make a C- to save his life. But he was very bright and asked all kinds of questions that were very reminiscent of years ago. And the lowdown is that he graduated just barely. Today he is a leading expert in the business community in Chicagoland. And I was talking to his parents at a reunion several years ago, and they said, we didn't think he was going to make it through college. And guess what? He's a guest lecturer at Northwestern University.
Wow.
So I think
Wow.
I think that Dave is a hippie and will always be a hippie.
Right?
He doesn't look anything like it, and he's a 30-something guy, and just he's got it.
It kind of reminds me a lot of myself and a lot of my friends who, maybe success is defined by a certain white patriarchal culture that we're not necessarily, aligning with right now.
Exactly. You see, with the Bernie movement, I think this is just very interesting. And Bernie, by the way, we were talking about the three groups earlier. Bernie would not fit into the today's beat category. It's not literary and art that he's interested in, nor would he be a hippie. He's not particularly interested in sexual liberation and blowing your mind, or and moving into innovation. Really, he's the perfect example of the campus radical.
I was going to say that too.
I feel like I've stepped back in time to some of the university.
I was going to say that I felt like we have almost a replay of 60s going on right now. We've hit rewind a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah, and he's always been that. My wife and I were having breakfast this morning. She said, "Look at Bernie's life." She just kind of Googled it on the phone, and this guy has just been socially active all of his life. I mean, he's never done anything. He's never done anything but committed himself to this situation. It's a lifetime of giving, and he's about as pure campus radical. You want to look at a 1964 campus radical, look at Bernie Sanders.
Right.
He's the perfect example.
Campus radical who's not changed since.
He has not changed.
He has not faltered or changed. Right.
No, he stuck to his, I was going to say stuck to his guns, but I don't think he would like that. But he's been very consistent over the years. Very consistent.
Okay, so I think we're about ready to go, but do you have any sort of last thoughts?
Well, I think that today's, and again, I don't like to use the word, but today's millennials are really, I see a lot of strong parallels between this generation. And I've been in the classroom as a professor for 30 years, but prior to that, I worked for 10 years in higher ed. So I've been at it, for the last 40 years or so. And I've never seen a generation of students quite like this one.
The millennials,
Their interest in making a difference and not just making more and more money is refreshing. It's new, and I think they will. I think they are making a difference.
I do too, and even
in class, I said, "What has your generation done?" And they go, "Well, we haven't done it." I said, "What do you mean?" We presided over the first African American president. You have fought 2 wars. There's just so much.
Yeah.
That, they've already participated. I mean, Mark, the Facebook owner, 29
Zuckerberg,
years old. I mean, my goodness.
Right.
So, I mean, it's remarkable what's been achieved already.
It really is. It really is. And what's interesting is we are now the millennials are birthing I don't know, if you count me as a millennial, I'm 35. I don't know where I fit right now.
Well, it could be 1981, but again, it's all artificial.
That's when I was born, 1981.
Yeah.
But so maybe I'm just the brand, front row seat millennial. Yeah. my children, I'm calling them, I don't know if this is a thing or not, the Mars generation, because it's my hope that they go to Mars. And I've noticed that they have they play together way different than we played together as children. Even they're concerned with hey Kitsy, they're concerned with working together to solve problems. I feel like that's their major theme, which I feel is totally different than
No problem. I think that's great. I was overheard a conversation down the hall. A student was talking with a professor, and had that conversation gone on 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it would have been much different. He was saying, she's a very bright student, I know who she is, and he was offering her this job in logistics, transportation. And at the end of it, I heard her say, I'm sure I can make a lot of money, but I'm trying to figure out how I could ever be interested in something like that. And I thought, wow, now that's a flashback right there. Why would I want to become involved? How could I ever get excited about that?
Right.
And I thought, yeah. And she, of course, I've talked with her many times. Her goals are to start NGO I don't think trucking and transportation and logistics are in her near future, but who knows?
It's I think hopefully we've reached a level where maybe finding our basic needs or getting our basic needs met is easy, and then beyond that, how many flat screen TVs do we really need, people?
Exactly.
We're gonna go out and do stuff and share the wealth.
My wife and I, for the last 9 years, have been living a good portion of the year in our van, and we just love it. And when you get down to a life like that, we literally spend 13 cents a night to park our van.
Yeah.
And, we're on the ocean, and we have a quality of life that's very, very hard to beat. And people think we're nuts. I don't think. Most of my students thinks it's brilliant, and I think they see that as, an alternative. We don't have to put on our suits and do the 9 to 5.
No, and I was gonna say,
we'll do it.
and I was gonna say when I was asking about the movements, I was kind of hoping you might mention like minimalism and the whole wanderlust thing that's happening now. I don't know what it's called, but people are getting rid of their stuff, getting in a car, taking off. It's rampant right now.
And for us, that book was Jack Kerouac's On the Road book. And,
right.
That really set us all to going. But the less is more came out of the hippie movement. It was so much more than just a jingle, because what happened in the entire advertising world, U.S. advertising and product development after that, was that prior to the hippies, you advertised and made your products on the basis of what they had.
Right.
After the hippies, you advertised and made your products on the basis of what your products did not have. No caffeine, no salt, no carb, and all that thing. So that was a huge kind of paradigm shift in the industry.
Exactly.
That originated with hippies from a very simple philosophy.
Yeah, people were telling you back then, smoke some cigarettes. Doctors were saying cigarettes were okay, and just like fracking's okay now. Fracking's gonna get us cheap oil.
You're exactly onto it. The same parallels, and you know what? If you look back, who was I? John Steinbeck. A lot of the themes in literature over the years that have caught the attention of young Americans have had characters in them who had lost trust with the adults.
Right.
You see that over and over again. And that was very much a part of that movement. There was the feeling you cannot trust them. Why? Well, they say cigarettes are healthy, but who's going to make money on it? They say we need to be in Vietnam, yet they're not signing up. And so it was a very big lack of trust. Trust was broken. And whether it was ever restored again, I don't know. But once that was broken, then, the rules were off the table.
Yeah, and, you can't go back. You can't go back after that,
You can't go back.
You just can't.
And, at that time, he said, trust no one over 30.
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't know what we were going to do once we got over 30, but at the time, that was kind of
right.
the feeling.
Right.
Now we're over 70 or 60 or whatever we are.
Mike, this was so much fun. I thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and talk to us and explain to us a little bit about the hippie movement, kind of clear some things up. Thank you so much for writing this beautiful book, too. It's gorgeous.
Thank you, Jessica. I do a lot of presentations and interviews, but you are a wonderful interviewer. I think you've got a great future in it.
Thank you so much.
You're very comfortable. One of the most comfortable interviewers I've had in recent days, and I appreciate it so much.
I thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I wish. Where can people buy the book? Where can people buy the book?
They can do several things. Of course, Amazon is readily available. I like to think that they could just go to their local bookstores, and just request it.
Just order it?
Local. That's what the hippies wanted. Let's keep it local. Let's go to our private bookstores. And if, Barnes & Noble is your local bookstore, well, okay. But,
that's a very hippie thing to say, Mike. That's very hippie of you.
You got to go to Amazon.
That's what I did, unfortunately. I'm like, I got to have this now.
Whatever works, right?
Right.
And also, if they just want to learn more, Jessica, Jessica, they can go to hippieinc.co.
And if they, okay,
so-
hippieinc.co. Also, you've been posting like quizzes and things on your Facebook. That's been really fun.
Mike Klassen, I didn't go to that. There's a lot of conversation. You know what's going on there is all the hippies have come out. And, I mean, from the merry pranksters to everybody is on that Facebook.
Everybody's on your page talking.
Garcias to, they're all on there, and they don't, I mean, just the other day somebody said, I'm Jerry was my cousin, but I'm not letting people know. And there's all kinds of things, it's just been an exciting dialogue, and it just goes on pretty much every day of the week, all day long.
It does, especially on Mondays with your little trivia questions on Mondays.
Yeah, fun with it.
Thank you so much, Mike. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jessica. It was a pleasure, and best of luck to you and all your audience members. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hate it when I hang up on people like that. Skype's bad about that. It's like when you hit the button, that's it. Wow, guys, how cool was that? Who wants to go out and read this book? Maybe you can order it from the library and you don't even have to buy it. In fact, maybe I'll just give this one away. I'll wrap it up like I do these at some point. You won't know. You won't know, will ya? All right, guys, I'm going to go because I'm going to kind of take this link and give it to Mike so that, thanks so much, Andrew. Thanks, guys, for showing up. I was worried yesterday we didn't have very many people on here yesterday. Yeah, I've been missing you guys too. Hey, tomorrow I'm gonna be reading some more tomorrow of our Good Master book. And if you have, thanks so much, guys. Happy birthday, Lady Danny. I'm gonna do another scope, all dedicated to Lady Danny. But another chapter, fire yesterday. Are you serious? Another chapter of Good Master tomorrow. And I have another author interview lined up soon. I actually have to nail down a date, but Valerie Wetlaufer's poetry book, Call Me By My Other Name, we'll be doing another interview soon. And I guess I have to ask other people. So for an interview, so if you know somebody who's written a book, let me know and I will get in touch with them. Mike was so cool. I was just like random, like, hey, your book sounds awesome. Let's do this. And he was really cooperative, and I thank him so much for that. But I'm going to get off here now and give him the link to this broadcast so he can share it on his social network. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, but I'm going to be back on in a second to wish Lady Danny happy birthday. Love you guys. I will see you tomorrow for sure and soon. So talk to you later. Bye.